Landmarks Commission special meeting agenda of June 26, 2024. Let's have a roll call vote. Roll call, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll go ahead and take roll call. Chair Grumbine is currently absent. Vice Chair House.
I'm here.
Commissioner Butler.
Here.
Commissioner Dordan.
Here.
Commissioner Drury is absent currently. Commissioner Ensberg.
Here.
Commissioner Lenvik.
Present.
Commissioner McClure.
Yes.
And Commissioner Uli is absent presently as well. We have quorum.
Great, thank you. Okay. First item on the business is general public comment. Any member of the public may address the commission for up to 2 minutes on any subject within its jurisdiction that is not scheduled on this agenda for public discussion.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. Currently, we do not have anyone participating via Zoom, so I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. We do have one public comment slip, and that is for Sherry Ray. Sherry, if you don't mind coming up to the podium, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
And please make sure the microphone is on with a little green light.
I have some visuals.
Okay.
And they're numbered, so the first two go together and then they're numbered after that. Where do I put them? Those can just be displayed together, and then the rest of them I'll say the numbers.
Okay. And you'll want these back again?
Well, definitely the documents. You
Ah,
can
I see.
Photos, but I'll send those
Okay.
to you as well.
Okay.
I think you should keep track of those.
Those are the numbered things.
Commissioner Drury.
Good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here about matters of historic importance. As we've seen with the recent sad saga about the jury of stone fines, open processes have been ignored so that even designated city historic landmarks and those who work to protect them are no longer treated with proper respect. It's not just the trees on Annapolis Street that need our attention. Neighborhood-defining cultural resources have also been damaged, lost, disregarded, even when the public does everything possible to protect them. Even with the City Council-approved Urban Forest Management Plan and the Lower Riviera Special Design District guidelines in place. Those are just, the design district is just 1 block from Anapamu. I have a few examples in the photographs there. Number 1, it's been a year since a neighbor, can you show that number 1? Is it?
One of those, they're
Oh.
numbered.
Oh, I wanted to show it.
What, on public TV?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, public TV. All right, let's see, number 1.
Number 1. Yeah, they were in order. Okay, number 1. It's been a year since a neighbor intervened to save these stamped sidewalk pieces, but despite multiple requests of the city, this is how they remain: unstable and unattractive and broken. Number 2, according to both of the documents and the historic designation of the stone pines, lost trees in the neighborhood are to be replaced with like trees. Number 3,
That's my cue.
and hitching, thank you, and hitching posts need to be protected. Note, a slab of sandstone does not replace the hitching post that once stood here on the lower left, despite the developer's belief that it did. And number 4, stone walls must be preserved. The city, the historic dry stacked wall that was bulldozed to make way for a modern uniform sandstone block. Who enforces historic preservation? Who protects these delightful details in our neighborhoods and on our city streets? The nonprofit community, long dedicated to this work, simply can no longer keep up to meet the need. Neither can we depend solely on interested parties to have the time or capacity to save the neighborhood. We who value our historic resources cannot just react to the damage after the fact. We must initiate and innovate a way to teach a new generation of residents and workers to become conscientious stewards of this special place.
Pardon the interruption. There's no time remaining. However, Vice Chair House may allow you to proceed if he...
Okay, will you be wrapping it up
Yeah, I
soon?
have just a couple
Okay.
more. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Our city leadership and staff, in collaborative partnership with learned HLC and community members, must prioritize the protection and preservation of and education about our living landmarks, stonework, and other historic resources that comprise our community mosaic, as Bernard Hoffman termed it. In the midst of every crisis lies great opportunity, said Albert Einstein. The current tree crisis offers an opportunity for great proactivity, cooperation, and a rethinking of who we are and what we value in a community that once revered its history and its landmarks. How we respond now will determine whether in the future people say, "I'm so glad they did that," or they say, "Why in the world did they let that happen?" Let's choose wisely. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. I think we all agree with you. What would you like back?
Oh, you can, if anybody wants it.
Okay.
Oh, no, I need the document.
Yeah, you need to.
Those are
Okay, does that conclude public comment?
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll just state for the record that we did receive written correspondence from Kevin Boss, Sherry Ray, Kevin, Lisa Ballantyne, and Bob Johnson and Lisa Reich. Back to the commission.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the Historic Landmarks Commission meeting of June 5th, 2024.
So moved. Second. Second.
Motion by Drury and second by Butler. Are there any corrections, edits? Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll take roll call vote. Commissioner Dorden,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli still absent, Commissioner McClure,
Yes.
and Vice Chair House.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, item C, under general business, is ratification of action taken on the consent calendar of June 26, 24. I see there's kind of a new format here,
Yeah.
so if you would like to clue us in on,
Thank you, Vice Chair House, and I'll take a moment to introduce myself. I'm filling in for Ms. Rydell. My name's Carly Ernest. I staff the Architectural Board of Review. And yes, there is a new format to the agendas, and this is just to increase public transparency so it's easier to see which items were on the consent agenda and the action that was taken. And there's also a difference in the motion that you'll be making today, and that the motion will be to ratify the action taken instead of approve the minutes. The ratification of the action is what starts the 10-day appeal period, and then at your next full commission hearing is when the minutes will be approved. So I will go ahead and read out the items and action taken, and then the motion maker, if they can just please move to ratify the actions of the consent calendar.
thank you for that.
So for item 1, 712 Castillo Street, it received project design approval and final approval as submitted, and the minor zoning exception findings were made to allow a fence to exceed the 42-inch height requirement in the front yard setback. And for item 2, 2050 Garden Street, the project was continued indefinitely to the staff hearing officer. Thank you.
Thank you. So are there any questions on any of those items?
Yes, Vice Chair House, I have questions on both of them. The first one, which is this, I think if I read it correctly, it's a dark stained wooden fence on top.
Not stained, actually, just left natural redwood,
Okay.
age gray.
So what are, I was noticing the pictures from the neighborhood, and how is this, how did you find this to be okay?
Well, I initially assumed that there was a 6-foot height limit to a fence, but actually it's 42 inches within 10 feet of the property line. So it didn't matter approval-wise whether it was 6 feet or 6.5 feet. His wife is a veterinarian, and they own a veterinary hospital, and they take in a lot of dogs and stuff like that. So it was partly for keeping dogs in and partly for keeping transients out. I drove the neighborhood. I also noticed that most instances that he cited, the stone wall was lower and the fence wasn't always 42 inches, but it seemed in keeping with the house, and it's removable. As far as the 5x5 view triangle, there's an existing tree and hedge and stuff like that, so it wasn't an intensification of this nonconformity. And he would rather have taken the fence all the way up to meet the chain link fence. And I said, well, staff advised us that he would need another review from Public Works and another 30-day review period and stuff like that. And I said, we can approve it today as submitted, and then you can pursue that if you want. But I would prefer it be the angular solution that he had. And Commissioner McClure said you could always plant something there to soften the corner if you want, so that's,
And another reason we thought it was okay is there's about 4 or 5 steps up to the front yard. So the front yard's about 3 feet off the sidewalk level. So for any kind of barrier, you're going up from that.
Yeah, I didn't have any issues with the height or anything like that. Mainly what I was noticing, it just felt sort of aesthetically, I thought it might be better to be like a hedge, and I realize you have a dog thing, so maybe it would be a hedge buried with a fence buried in it, or maybe wrought iron or something like that. It just felt, I guess, unsophisticated is maybe a good way of saying it. Just didn't feel very, very as aesthetically pleasing as it might be. And I wasn't trying to add to the cost or anything like that, but I thought, in the other pictures I saw, I thought, well, it sure would be nice just to have a hedge there, a green element, rather than this dark wood that's against the White House. So I was having, in our job to be aesthetically concerned, I was having that issue. And maybe that's something maybe we as a commission might want to talk about more at some point to help guide these kinds of things when they come through, because they are more minor items that you guys just have to decide together there on the spot.
well, it is always a judgment call as to how much more to ask for and how important it is. And I remember with past consent reviewers, I've disagreed with things that they've approved. So anybody on this commission is welcome to take a turn next time around and be the consent calendar person. So I will
Chair?
turn things over
Oh,
to.
Okay.
And I did have,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry. Go ahead.
Do you want, but if you want to comment on
You
this,
had
then.
a question on the other.
The other one
Yeah.
also, I'm assuming that there was this only, this is an ADU, so there's no design review except
Actually,
for.
we did have purview for the design review because of the second story and because of the encroachment in the
Yeah,
front yard setback.
Okay, I guess I don't recall us reviewing that, but I was sort of,
We hadn't previously,
Oh, we
had
hadn't?
previously seen the main house when that was
okay.
remodeled.
So would we be seeing it then, or this was
Nope.
continued for something? But I certainly would have given some comment about on the back side where there's these little dormer windows. I felt like they were a little bit much and that it would be better simplified without them. But I don't know, there's no opportunity for any kind of comment at this point?
Well, there is an opportunity for any commissioner to request that something be brought up to the full board, correct?
Correct, and thank you, Vice Chair House, and to Commissioner Ensberg. The project will now go to the staff hearing officer for review and approval of the modification for the setback encroachment, and then it will come back to HLC consent calendar for project design approval and final approval. So when it does return to the consent calendar, you could make a motion for it to be brought up to the full board commission if you feel that's appropriate.
Well, and also, I mean, it's always nice to give this input early so that it doesn't hold a project up, so that they have that information and can then respond to it if they, in a way that doesn't hold them up. So that's why I'm bringing it up. I hadn't seen it before, and I just felt that, I mean, it's very nice and it's very well done. I just felt that it was a little fussy there with the 2 dormers on the back kind of pushing up into the new roof area.
And I have a question for staff. Is any commissioner welcome to attend the consent meeting and make comments?
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I would have to confirm with design review supervisors
Yeah.
on that. I believe so, though.
And
So
Steve,
that might
didn't she say that the solar ordinance had to do with that detail or something like that?
Well, it had to do with height. Your concern is more about the
Just the 2 little,
composition.
it was just the 2 little dormers that were poking up, and I studied it pretty carefully, and I thought there's enough, ornamentation and detail it's just an adorable little building that it didn't really need that extra piece. So, and it felt like it was taking away is how I found it to be. But anyway, that's
Well,
what.
for what it's worth, I said, did you look into the possibility of not having that Mission Revival gable end? Because now that's a second-story thing. It was a first-story thing, and now it's a second-story. Is that a little bit much? But they hadn't considered it, but, argument certainly can be made. It's something that exists, and it's consistent with the architecture of the house. So There's always questions like that.
And I suppose they're hearing this now. So then perhaps when they come back, maybe they would have two alternates, that would show it with or without, and then that might make it easier to just make it fly through quicker in the future.
Is there any such thing as sending them a memo? Is that appropriate, or saying that this has happened to come up and you might want to be thinking about this?
No, to Commissioner McClure, that was not part of the motion made. So informally off the record, if they're watching, that could happen, but it wasn't part of the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That was just all I had to say about
Okay.
those. Thank you, and thank you for doing the consent.
Certainly.
Do you want to wrap this one up? 'Cause that wasn't the
Well,
full
it's-
thing.
I'd like a motion to. Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I have before my neighbor chimes in. So, under this new format for consent, under action it says to be announced. Well, have we not just announced it?
That's it.
Uh,
Yeah.
We did announce them.
So that's it. So,
Yes.
but why is that not in?
The action hasn't been taken yet of ratification, is that correct?
So that's because the consent hearing happened at 11 a.m. this morning, and the agenda is posted on Thursday, so we aren't able to revise it.
What do you mean you can't get it done? All right. Thank you very much.
Their crystal ball isn't working in terms of knowing what the future holds.
Yeah. Commissioner Drury, it used to be the case that we would take a vote on things at consent calendar, but now it's just forwarded to the full board for ratification.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so any other questions? Commissioner Lenvick, did you have a comment or question? Okay. So then we need a motion for ratification of the consent calendar.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, Drury and Lenvick.
Question, Vice Chair Vice Chair House. So, and then,
However it works.
is that with then the comments made? It's ratified based on the discussion?
Comments made
Right now?
No.
No.
Oh, it's not?
No, I don't believe,
No, it's based on the action that was taken at the committee meeting this morning.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
yeah, okay.
Sorry for confusion, but.
So we have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll take roll call vote. Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Lenvick,
Yes.
Commissioner McClure,
Yes.
Commissioner Dordan,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Abstain.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, it's
All right.
yours.
I'll go for item D then. Okay, so we are on to item D, announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items, and appeals. So to staff.
No staff announcements today.
Okay. Other announcements?
Yes, Chair Grumbine, yes, thank you. I have two, well, actually, three things. One is, we had requested last meeting to have agendized the discussion of the stone pines, but that was, I think, explained at our next meeting when it was not agendized, that it would not be because we're going to have a report in July. Is that correct?
Commissioner Ensberg, that is my understanding that the discussion is tentatively scheduled for the July 17th hearing. That is what Ms. Hernandez had stated at the June 5th full commission hearing. I haven't heard otherwise, but
Okay.
I can have her report back on that.
Yeah, okay. We're just anxious to have it, and obviously, we're so appreciative of the public comment and the concerns about these trees and other historic elements. So, and then last time we also requested agendizing discussion of the Paseo on Figueroa Street in particular, and Paseos in general. So I just wanted to bring that up again. I see it didn't get on the agenda today, but I just wanted to bring that up again and not lose that piece, so that hopefully we can do that sometime in the future.
So there was some communication to me, and I'm sorry, I'm also just catching up. I was traveling, and I just got back Monday night, but there was some communication over last week about the Figueroa Paseo project in particular, and that basically because there wasn't an applicant, the city being the city, there there wasn't an applicant of a project, that it wasn't appropriate to have it as an agendized item. So let me I haven't had a chance to respond or just have any of the discussion. But let me get back to everyone on that, and because I do want to see about how we can get something done with that. I do think it's very obvious that everyone wants to do something with it. So everyone on the HLC, as well as owners and the public and others. So I think that just as an update, but I haven't had a chance to actually respond to that email yet.
Mr. Chair, I don't understand how they could say that we can't see the Figueroa for sale because it's not been agendized, or it's not,
No.
there's no application, or
They're saying
what?
there's no application for it.
But there was an application that's been in a number of times, and we've continued it.
Yeah, so basically, if I'm remembering it, this is just from memory, when I read it, I think it was Sunday I read it, Monday, the argument was because they weren't applying for something now, they stopped, and they're not pushing forward with currently with any application, therefore, and it would take an applicant to have a review of it. That's my understanding of their argument. I want, let's just put a pause on this till next time, and let's bring it up again next time, and hopefully by then I'll have more information and be able to.
I hope that you are firm and tough and wearing big boy pants when you talk to them.
I'll make sure I wear my big boy HLC pants.
3 years ago, we sent them away and said, you must remove those temporary barriers on each end of the paseo. And they've done nothing.
Yeah, and
So they choose to ignore us.
And so just as a general thing, because we don't want to get into a conversation on it, I think that one of the solutions potentially might be to have another small group of us, a non-quorum group, meet with city and others there. So that's what I want to try to do to get further this on, to keep things moving and to potentially get a solution there. So that's my hope, but we'll see. So we'll keep this discussion going, but not actually discussing.
Rather than another small group, I would say make sure you've got at least 2 council members in attendance, so they understand that we are being played with by Public Works Department.
Okay, well, I won't use that language, but I'll at least I think that's a great idea to try to get 2 council members involved too. Okay.
And I had one other request. This is in response to our Ms. Ray's public comments, and just about to request that we can have a discussion about how we deal with non-landmarked but very important historic details. I'll just put it like that. So these were a number of them Ms. Ray was sharing with us, like may not be, deemed a landmark, but it's something that's a detail and very important part of our fabric. If we could have a discussion about that, and maybe even how those get enforced and how we might be able to solve it. Like, might we talk about having a special office for historic preservation, for example, instead of being under, and not to getting into the discussion, but not being under planning, the planning department being a separate office for historic preservation, to have that discussion and see if that might be a possibility and how we would do that and how do we address these very important pieces that can just easily slip away.
So can you give examples of what you're talking about, just for clarity?
What do you mean?
What's slipping? So discussion regarding non-landmarks.
Landmarked,
Perhaps Ms. Ray could show the pictures.
non-landmarked
Oh, yeah.
details.
Can you bring up your pictures again, please?
Yeah.
Oh, here, the walls.
okay.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I missed this portion.
I would
Okay.
suggest
that,
that
and
office
then
be
there's
under the
also
city
that
attorney's
Oh, got it.
jurisdiction.
Okay.
Well, that's what we would talk about.
Okay, so talking about a variety of details
any
throughout
number of
and-
things. It could be like
Yeah.
the frog wall, for
Okay.
example. It
Yeah.
could be any
Defining
crazy
features,
thing, but
yeah.
it's like a special element that we all cherish as a very detail, but that hasn't been designated.
Okay.
But it could slip
And so, so then I'm just trying to think what we would need to, what our request is to staff. So it'd probably be Ms. Hernandez pulling together at least a few examples, and whether they take from what the public has provided or others, but just some few examples, and then maybe talking to us about that, and then us having the discussion on it as well.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
There's, in the past, been discussion of needing a city architect, and that might be something that would fall under the purview of the city architect
Yeah.
as well.
Okay, so then also with that, and actually the city architect is a former HLC, the current city architect that they finally got for the position.
I didn't know they did.
Should
Yeah.
that
Who is
person,
That's Craig,
Schallenberger.
Craig Schallenberger.
Okay.
So,
Works.
what's that?
They're under public works.
Oh,
aren't
boy.
They work under public works.
I think they might, but, and there, that would be an interesting discussion as part of that too.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
Additive comment, we discussed living landmarks was sort of the phraseology that we used in our last session. I think that's in the context of the discussion.
true.
okay.
And
Great.
also, how reporting of existing landmarks, if they're starting, we notice that they're deteriorating. I was over at Meridian Studios recently, and I was kind of shocked. And I found that you're supposed to report a certain way, and I tried to do it, and it wasn't very easy, and I haven't been able to figure out how to do it yet.
SB
But,
Connect.
yeah, I tried.
And
Maybe you
actually,
can help me.
Maybe, maybe that could be part of our training too.
You
Yeah.
won't get a response.
But anyway, in any case, I'm just saying, I think this would
Okay,
be.
that sounds good.
As
Like,
HLC,
yeah.
this is
As a-
our,
And that could be with Nicole also, but the discussion both of what we currently have as our existing, all of our existing ways of operating, and then also any potential that we might think might be a good additional change, how that would be. Okay, great.
Thank you.
So let's
Thank you.
request that. That might take, I think that would probably take a little bit of time to prepare for as well. So I think that could be a good, at least maybe if it could be a couple, maybe not next time, but the time after or something like that as a part of the request.
Grumbine, I'd be happy to assist with that if there's,
Okay.
anything.
Okay, great, thank you. And so I'm sure that'll be going to Ms. Hernandez. So with Cass volunteering,
Mr.
great.
Chair.
Thank you. Yep.
I would just like to thank staff for adjusting the meeting time today for your efforts to do that. Just as a thank you.
All right.
So we all can attend the 3 o'clock meeting at Cabrillo Pavilion.
Cabrillo Pavilion, not
Right?
FOF.
Not States, and the State Street Advisory Committee.
Yeah, and,
It's
but
gonna be
don't
important.
talk to each other. Yeah, what's that? No, I'm just saying I'm just saying we don't all sit together. Yeah. It's better not to sit together. Okay, so now, anything else for announcements before we go on to subcommittee? All right, let's go on to subcommittee reports. So any subcommittee meetings and/or reports about meetings? We started to jump onto that one already, so State Street Advisory. 3 o'clock today. Yeah.
Chair Grumbine? I have to report that I shared, you all remember these guidelines that we've been working on for the furniture and accessories for outdoor dining. You remember we shared that with everybody. I shared that with our, with Councilwoman Sneddon, who is also our liaison. I shared this with her, and she was very appreciative and very supportive of it. And she, offered some, I think she will help us to try to figure out how to move it forward. So I just wanted to report that I had done that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other subcommittee reports? All right, on to item 1, which is the archaeology report for 117 East Ortega. Do we have applicant? No. Do you want to talk about an archaeology?
I mean, you guys usually just take the recommendations from.
Hey, there has been a few times where we haven't, where we
they chew them
asked for
apart.
a little more.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, all right,
Chair,
so,
never mind. I
yes.
can make a staff comment that
Okay,
staff
great.
recommends the acceptance of the Phase 1 report. It was reviewed by Dr. Glassow, who agrees with the recommendations.
Okay. All right, so we'll go to public comment now. Any public comment? Anyone online?
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. I do not have any virtual participants today, nor do I see any written correspondence. So back to the commission.
All right, to the commission, any discussion? All right, let's have a roll call vote, please. Oh, wait, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the report. Second.
All right, under discussion, any other discussion? All right, a roll call vote, please.
Thank you. I'll take roll call vote. Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Commissioner McClure,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorden,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye,
Motion passes. Thank you.
all right.
Great presentation.
Yeah. And for
I
the
respect
record,
your time.
and for the record, 99% of the time, we just accept it. Sometimes we have questions and ask for even a modification. All right, but it does always get through in general. Okay, so then we're on to item 2. So 117 East Ortega Street. This is located in El Pueblo Viejo and listed on the Historic Resources Inventory, constructed in 1890 in the Italianate Queen Anne style. Proposal to convert the existing 2-story single-unit residence to a duplex with no exterior changes other than paint, and to develop a new 4-plex and open yard area at the rear of the site. The project will result in 6-unit development under the city's average unit size density program. Project includes landscaping and hardscaping changes. No final appealable action will be taken at this meeting. Project compatibility findings and minor alterations findings will be required for project design approval. All right, and there was a historic significance report. And so, to staff.
One moment while I pull that up.
And then welcome. In the meantime, you can introduce yourself.
Hi, Jarrett Gorin from Vanguard Planning, here to present the project.
Great. Okay. All right, so that was a historic report prepared. And any other?
No additional
comments?
staff comments.
Okay. All right, so why don't you present the project? You have 15 minutes. You don't have to use it all, but you have 15 minutes, and yeah, take it away.
Great. Could I have my
Yeah.
screen back? Excellent. Okay, so this is next door to another project of ours that you saw a few months ago over here at 135 East Ortega, the Adaptive Reuse Project.
Pacific Acoustics.
Yeah, that's right. And then this is the parking area that's in between. And so this is the long, narrow parcel that's on the other side of that parking area. This is the Natural History Museum grounds here. We share a little bit of common boundary with them. And then here's this big, I don't remember if this was part of the News Press parking lot or not, but we got a big parking lot on the rest of our thing. And then there's another residential structure that's right next door to us on the street frontage. So I'll just go through neighborhood photos really quick. So that's looking up Santa Barbara Street, back towards Ortega there. And then, yeah, this is across that intersection. I'll just blow through these real quick. That's right across the street from us. Again, across the street from us. And then we get down to Anacapa, and that's the Anatega project. And some other views of that, parking lot 10. I mean, this is just basically what's around us. You're all familiar with the neighborhood there. This was the right next door to us at 135. And that's basically that. Let me show you the site itself. So this is looking at the side of that existing structure. This is if you walk down to the end of the parking lot and you look back towards the back of that existing structure. The whole back part of this lot is basically vacant. There's a carport back there and like a shed, but it's mostly vacant. It looks like this. So just some more views of that. That is looking towards this. This is our property right here. And then that's from across the street. That's looking across the parking lot. The new building we're proposing is going to be visible back in here only through that parking lot. And then I think that's it for the site. So these are our plans. Let's just go into the existing site plan. I'll basically see it in this survey, but this is the existing house here. Here's this carport back here. There isn't any driveway here, I don't think anymore. I think this is all wall at this point, and then there's a little shed, and again, that's all open space back there. So what we're proposing to do is keep the front building exactly the way it is, and, you know, paint it and do some cosmetic upgrades to the exterior, but convert that into a duplex. It's just a big single-family home right now. Each of the units in the duplex is right around 1,000 square feet, and I think they're 2-bedroom units, and then build a new fourplex behind it. In each of the units in this fourplex is also right around 1,000 square feet. And so, you know, we're in one of those AUD sites that has a really high potential density you can do on it. We're going towards a very low end of the AUD density on this. One of the reasons we're doing that is to avoid conflicts with the Natural History Museum right next door. Like, one of the things that has come up a lot on the 135 project is I think this commission and then the planning commission more recently appreciated the fact that we weren't doing like the full-blown, full-scale AUD project with 4 stories right across the fence from the Natural History Museum. And so we're taking a similar low-key approach here and going towards the lower end of the density, but larger units. And these are 4-bedroom units that will be in here. So I think another unique thing in this project is most AUD projects, you see a lot of 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. You don't see units with higher bedroom counts a lot. And so this provides a different type of housing stock in the downtown that we're not seeing a whole lot. So those are just floor plans. This is probably what you're really interested in. So this is the front unit, and nothing's changing on it, and we're just dividing the inside into 2 units. And then the back unit is just stacked, 4 units stacked right on top of the other 4 units, with ground level entries to all of them. And it's just very simple, utilitarian rectangle with siding and, you know, architecture that's compatible with the front unit, and it's way back in the back. I guess you might see this portion of the elevation from the front. You'd probably see maybe this much of it if you were looking across that parking area that's next to us. And then this allows us to have all this open space in the back here, and that's just going to be a big open area with some patios surrounding artificial turf area. We meet the open space requirements for the site. We're not asking for any modifications or anything as part of this project. And yeah, it's just going to be 2 stories straight across the whole thing. And it's not part of this proposal, but we've made some changes to this other proposal next door based on your commission's input. And those were presented to Planning Commission a couple weeks ago, and one of the changes we're doing actually wasn't directly from your input, this particular change, but this whole area here that was going to be 11 parking spaces is now going to be open space in that project. So there's a big open space area here too, in terms of how you're looking at distribution of open space around these buildings. So that's my presentation. I can answer any questions you have.
All right, thank you. All right, so we'll go to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. I currently do not have any participants in Zoom, nor is there anyone in the audience, and we did not receive written correspondence, so back to the commission.
All right, to the commission for questions.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Drury.
so what does hardscaping changes, what kind of changes in hardscape and where?
So the majority of the changes are back here. This whole area right now is lawn area, basically, turf. So we're taking over half of it with the building and then the walkways around that. And then this back area, rather than having it be all turf, is going to be concrete patio and then artificial turf rather than water-using turf.
Okay, and the other question is, what about driveway and parking?
So, Chair Grumby and Commissioner Drury, there's no parking required or proposed as part of this, and no driveway.
All right, thank you.
There is bike parking in enclosed bike lockers. And those are right here.
I have a question.
Question, Commissioner?
You talk about the adjoining parcel simply being left open space. That's a temporary non-use. It'll be used someplace, at some time for something, right?
Chair Grumby, Commissioner Lembeck, that's correct. And when we talked about it with Planning Commission at our concept review there, the reason we removed the parking is we want to basically land bank this. Somebody, maybe us, maybe somebody else, could do additional residential units there in the future. If there's fire requirements for this project, that could partially use some of that space. We just thought it was better to leave that space open and available for whatever use the future holds and landscape it in the meantime. We're not just going to leave it vacant out there, but we got a lot of comments from Planning Commission on what to do with it in the interim.
Did the Planning Commission make any comment about the non-use of the back portion of your property, where you've got artificial turf and patios?
Chair Grumby and Commissioner Lembeck, the Planning Commission didn't look at this project. The Planning Commission was reviewing the project next door.
I find it surprising that it's that much space in downtown Santa Barbara is not being used for housing, but that's not our job.
Question mark?
Question.
Yeah, there we go.
Question mark. I find it surprising.
It is.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Do
I'm
you
done.
find it surprising?
I'm done. I'm done.
Is there any more? I'll fold it into a question. Is what, and I kind of had a similar thought. Was there any other reason that you that was an obvious reason? Because you can go one story back there, or even two stories, and it wouldn't probably wouldn't impact much the History Museum. So visually, or looking over or whatever, is there any other reason that you needed that open space or wanted it for something else? Or is it, again, a future thing potentially?
Chair Grumby, we have an open space requirement in AUD, and I think it's like 1,600 feet on this site, and this area back here is right around that
Gotcha.
1,600.
Okay.
We also need a 20 by 20 space, and that fits there, and if we were doing two longer, narrower buildings, we wouldn't be able to get that 20-foot
Gotcha.
dimension.
Okay.
Chair Grumby,
Yeah.
is there some reason why you didn't put the new building all the way to the back and leave the open space between the two so that they could, because it seems, isn't it sort of a long hike to get back there for some plastic grass and a concrete patio? Maybe if they were split, did you think about that?
We were going to put a sign on that saying plastic grass and concrete patio for tenants use only. We did think about it. We were trying to reduce impacts on this interface with the Natural History Museum, but we're here for concept, so
Okay.
if you have comments about
So
that,
you
let us
did-
know.
All right. And then other question is, can we look at the house that's directly on the west side? Or I guess the west side.
That would be.
The west side. It's another little residence, right? Yeah, there it is.
This one right here.
Yeah. And that looks like, is that one story or is it two?
I think
Sort of
that's
it's in
a one-story, and then it
Okay.
has like a little scissor, but I just think it's vents. right
Okay,
in
and
here.
it seems like that's the only one left in the neighborhood of, probably once upon a time, there were many of these,
I
but
think
now
there's one more next to it
over
right
here.
here.
And did you look at those when you were trying to figure out your colors? Did you study those and also any other typical homes in the area that are of this same style?
Chair Grumbine, Commissioner Ensberg, no, not specifically. We picked some colors which we thought looked okay with this style of architecture, and we picked two different colors for the
Yeah.
two different buildings that are sort of complementary to each other.
Did you look at like historic palettes to come up with those colors, or just picked them out, just
We
liked them? Okay.
Just picked colors we liked
Okay.
that seemed appropriate.
All right. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Chair?
Questions? Commissioner Drury?
So I didn't see the elevation, but the height of both buildings are the same, the existing and the proposed?
Let's zoom in here. Roughly, yes, but let's look at the actuals. So the new building in the back, we're looking at 26 feet to the ridge. And then the building in front,
Basically like a 19 feet of, up to the top plate, right?
yeah, I'll go back and check, but I think so. Yeah, and we're looking at 28 feet to the highest point of that building. And again, this building has this front portion right up at the street that's the tallest portion of the building, and then it drops down a little bit to maybe, this is looking like about 20 feet in change. And then that whole building is up above the street by the, there's like a 3-foot wall.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Vice Chair House?
the new building is not unattractive with its detailing that relates to the existing house, but it has no articulation. It's kind of barracks-like, and I'm wondering if there's a reason for that.
Chair Grumbine, Commissioner House, this building was just designed for pure efficiency so that all the walls of the inside units stacked on each other. And again, you know, we're here for concepts and looking for comments on these things. It is important for us to maintain the efficiency though, because we have a low unit count. We need to keep the construction costs down. But we're interested in any commission's comments on this.
All right. Other questions?
I have a question.
Yep.
Chair Grum.
Commissioner McClure.
Why artificial turf compared to real turf?
Yeah, it's gonna ask that.
Chair Grumbine, Commissioner McClure, the city frowns upon turf. And also, I think from a maintenance standpoint, I think the artificial turf probably works better, and it's all permeable, and counts as a permeable surface. So rather than have that entire area back there be paved, it has some permeable surface to it.
All right. I have one question. So, and maybe in plan, it'll help explain it more, but the big blank wall portion there on the right-hand side, of that long run, is there an in-plan reason for that? I'm trying to-
So this is the wall that you're referring to here. And so we have windows in the bedrooms, and then there's no window in the bathroom that's in there. So I mean, there's opportunities to do slightly different window patterns and things here. And
Gotcha.
we still
Okay.
have to meet egress on windows, but
Sure.
we have flexibility on that.
Okay, great. Any other questions? All right, why don't we roll into comments?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
comment first about color. I think if you do some historical research, you'll find out you came pretty close to what the historical colors would be. They weren't, they would be a darker and overall one color if you do the work. The other comment is about detailing, and I think you may also find that the Italianate and the Queen Anne, you can get that they would be interested in surface, textures, and patterns as a way to articulate the building, rather than adding stuff three-dimensionally. There is some in that little gable in the front that looking for moments, even if it's a simple band, where you can change the pattern just a bit, that would be consistent with some of the Queen Anne approach. Just those two comments.
All right, other comments?
Mr. Chair?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as far as the colors go for the bodies of the buildings, I think the colors as they stand are a little saturated. I think if you lifted them with white, it might be more attractive as far as the neighborhood goes.
And actually, just on that color discussion, I think it'll probably be helpful to, yeah, the Queen Anne and what you're going towards seems like more of the Italianate version of it, sort of a little more stripped down, a little more simple. So I think as you're looking at the colors, focus in that direction as well. It's like for the Queen Anne and/or Italianate, what would be a good one for the first, and then as an Italianate, what would be a good one for the second? And that might be a discussion with Ms. Hernandez as well, because we have our historic colors as well, but you also got to be careful you're not picking craftsman colors for, they could be historic colors, but you want to be in your right era.
We'll also bring actual paint samples next time. I think one of you mentioned saturation, and I think one of the things we may be seeing here is PDFs don't always translate colors 100%, and they tend to oversaturate them. So there we go.
Yep. Okay. Additional comments? Yep. Commissioner McClure, I saw his hand, and then
Okay.
Commissioner Hansberg.
I would just encourage you to study the back portion with the concrete and the faux turf, maybe parterre, maybe vegetable, but it just seems a little bit not very designed and not very interesting.
Yeah. And then also, just as a note on that, we know that the city frowns on grass, but we frown on plastic grass. So something else, I think if you want low water usage, doing that is great, or gravel and all the, I think it goes to the design aspect. So having that back area, even if it's a simpler landscape designed as that, and for us, unless there's an extremely particular case, our default is no to synthetic turf. So that just as a further discussion as you go to design that back area a little more. Okay, other comments?
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg and then Commissioner Lendick.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for the presentation. I really like this project. And I think it's a really good example of, respecting the neighborhood, restoring a historic piece, and adding to it in a way that brings housing. And I like that you have done these, the size, as you mentioned, the size is 2 bedrooms and 1,000 square feet. I think that's really great. So I want to commend you for that. And, it's a good example of variety, too. So I wanted to say that, and then I wanted to say I would like to see you think about moving that building to the back. And then with regard to the patio, as others have said, I think it would be better to think about or study a patio between the two buildings that they both could use, and not do any lawn, just do a beautiful garden, do landscaping, just with bushes and, landscape. And I think that could be a really beautiful space for the people who live there, and that more usable and functional. I agree about the colors. I think that I did a little bit of just, quick looking at those colors, and agree with Commissioner Dordan, and also
Your neighbor.
yeah, this guy here, about lighter. And I did notice that there were many examples of kinds of yellows. I think something more uplifting and brighter would be more kind of inspiring. These seem a little bit dark, and it might hold up better too. You get these really dark colors. So that was my comment about that. I like that they're different. They're different colors, that the one in the front is different from the one in the back, but maybe study that. And then maybe we could go to the elevations here, and this one here is fine. Our screen isn't working here right now. But I think, this two things about this. The elevation, I think if you could, and I understand the issue with the bathroom and having a tub and having a window in that location, but if you were able to put in a very small window you know, the opposite end from the shower head, you might be able to get a little awning window in there, and then it would be kind of a nice pattern to have a really tiny window, and that might be a way of dealing with that sort of big blank wall there. The other is, I think that these porches should be more, as Vice Chair House said, feels a little bit, you know, barracks-like. I think if you could maybe widen, I realize you maybe have limitations about how far out you could push these porches, but maybe you could make them wider and make them have more of a, you know, a presence instead of just so utilitarian, just get in the door type thing. I think that could really help it. And then lastly, two more things. The front building has this detailing along the baseline. You've got that wood trim stuff going around. Maybe there's something like that, because it does feel, you know, it adds to that sort of barracks feeling that Commissioner House mentioned, and also the overall height is increased because, you know, by putting a border or some kind of thing at the bottom on the new building, it would match this one more and perhaps help take that that feeling away a little bit. And then finally, the sills on the new building, I think they should be white, the same as the trim around the windows.
Okay.
Those are my comments, and thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lenvik?
Yes, I think it would be a lot easier to support this project if the open space is moved between the two buildings. It makes no sense now to have the three-bedroom population at the very rear, in the middle of the property, and have this thing feel so tight with the building in the middle of the property. I think you really got to find a way to get that open space between the two buildings.
Mr. Chair?
Yep. Mr. House?
I totally agree with the last two commissioners about moving the building to the back and then having a shared common open area in between. And need I ask what people think, I believe, about plastic grass?
There,
I can guess.
I can see his, with three-bedroom units, they expect to have children in here. And so how do you, I'm not sure how you get children to play on an area that is not grass and or dirt. It's a problem, but their program is for children.
Although I think
Sure,
with on the landscape side of thing, I think what you're hearing in general is just, you need the design kind of worked out better. So however that goes on, but I think that's a sort of a general consistency and no artificial turf. I think the key takeaways, however you shift in design. Yeah.
Just to add to the children can play in a lot of ways, and if they want to kick a soccer ball around, they could go over to Ortega Park. There's other areas that are more conducive to that, or the junior high, you know, different places. But they do, and I know this from experience of my granddaughters, they like to have little trikes and stuff, and they like to ride around, you know, on a patio area as well. They can find ways to play. So I don't think, and even the way the landscape is done, if you did a landscape, it could even have, depending on your stormwater management system, you might have like a dry creek bed or something that they like to explore and look at the flowers and find the lizards and those types of things. So I think it's, you know, a lawn for yourself is not necessarily needed. They will find ways to play, and they
Even
can.
on a concrete slab.
Yeah. Anyway, I just, you know, just wanted to point that out too.
All right.
One more.
Commissioner McClure?
Well, sometimes lawn is appropriate. You know, it takes some water, takes some trimming, but sometimes it's just the right answer. So I don't think it doesn't have to be giant, but it's a great ground cover.
I would agree.
Bring it back to Plaza de la Guerra.
Yeah. Mr. Chair.
All right,
So
Vice Chair
I'm
House.
assuming the front building is raised floor and your new building is on a slab?
That's correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, I agree with Commissioner Jordan's comments about surface decoration. is one way to kind of articulate the building. Whether or not the proportions are right, if you try and emulate the foundation skirt from the front building on the back building, I don't know.
I think that
but-
might be a cripple wall on the front building. It
Yeah.
seems like that's the proportion of it, and the construction of it looks different too, and it almost looks like that's a detail around a cripple wall on this
Yeah, I
building.
believe it is, yeah. But I think articulating the building with surface texture is an appropriate thing to explore.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And then, did you have any additional comments?
I just would encourage separating, putting the open space between the two buildings. I think that would make that open space equitable in terms of its use. I think that would make a significant change to the utilitary aspect of the project.
Right on.
Encourage that.
Okay.
So I'll jump in on a couple more comments. I agree, in general, the space in between is probably a little nicer. I understand you're trying to be sensitive to not natural history, the
Historical
history museum. So, and I understand. I also don't think it's that big of a deal if you have a 2-story building, overlooking it or whatever. So, and then in some ways that the big blank wall isn't as offensive because you don't ever walk around it. But I do think that the big blank wall seems to be the biggest challenge right here. I want to comment that it's a great really great design. There's and you're going in the right direction for sure. I think part of it would be looking at your Italian examples. I do think you find ones that are fairly boxy and simple, not massing. So I think you're on the right track. I think your porches, you need to look at your Italianate porches a little more closely. You tend not to have beam ends sticking out or things. It tends to be a cornice wrapping as it does in the top. So I think look at some good examples. And for your Italianate brackets as well, that's a key feature. So looking at the historic brackets and maybe playing off the existing up front or finding one that's kind of similar but different, I think would be good and be helpful. And then also might give some ideas for how to not just have a simple wall, how those textures might be broken up or different windows or other things. So, but in generally agreeing with all the other comments that have been made, and I'm the one comment that I think is going to be tough is to be giving it a base. Because you don't really have much space, and as soon as you give a base, you need a landing, and you need steps, and you need to be able to lift up things. So I'm still okay with it as it is, even just one step up or whatever. But I do think that might be a challenge. But if you do give it a base, you could also give it a base not with wood, but you could give it a base with, even though a little extra cost, but stone or something as if it was like the boulders that it was kind of built on. So, but if you do that, it'll just be like a step, I would see. I think it's definitely totally supportable, and very nice drawings as well.
Thanks.
Yeah, it really gives a good character as they're not dead. All right.
I have one comment, if I might,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. I don't think you will impact the adjoining museum parking lot by moving your building back. And what you're going to benefit from are all of the existing trees and landscaping that are at that parking lot. They're going to benefit your building in that back area. We don't see the aerial in your presentation, but it was in the archaeological report, and that's oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's trees and planting in that back parking area back there of the museum, and it's going to add to your project a lot. I think you'll be able to up the rent.
Make it less affordable. Yes.
It will impact trees on our site here, but trade-offs are trade-offs.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is a
Commissioner
question out of order. Is there an opportunity, I believe in porches as a living, part of the living area, and I wonder if there's an opportunity to expand those porches if you have there for 2 chairs and a little table for outdoor living in weather like this. it might add a little bit of breakup to the barracks-like look that we've been talking about, which I don't quite agree with, but I think the expansion of porches might be something to look at.
Okay. I'll add that in.
Possible.
Well, and the fact that if you move the building back, then you're no longer directing traffic along the side of the building, and you'd be limited in being able to project into that space. So if the
Yeah.
building's at the back, you could have more usable porches.
True.
I think that's possible on the ends of the building. It's going to be challenging on the sides because we're going to be in between fences once we push this back, if we push this back here.
Okay, well, I'll summarize it and, and some of it will just be studying it and seeing what you can come up with. Okay, so.
Chair Grumbine?
Yes.
Two more,
Commissioner
one, yeah,
Yeah.
in this discussion, that I agree that, that's why I was saying make them wider. At least make them wider if you can't make them deeper. And then on the base, just to be clear, what I was talking about on a base would just be some kind of cladding that's different, just to differentiate it so that it looked, to consider that, excuse me, that idea not as a true base, but as a kind of a trim element that could possibly emulate the front house. I mean, it's not, it just feels like it's just slamming right down into the, it feels a little bit.
Or you're saying that even
Awkward.
if the last board was a big, whatever, foot tall or something?
Something like that, that you just kind of, gave it a little something at the grade without, some poetry. That's it. Anyway, that was what I was intending to
Okay.
say. Thank you.
Board base, okay. All right, so let me try giving a shot at summarizing here. So first, thank you and the applicant, for really bringing us a really wonderful project.
Chair Grumbine, pardon the interruption. Can you please start the motion with continue indefinitely with the following comments?
Okay, how about I make the comments and then ask someone to make a motion with those, adopt those comments?
Sure.
Yeah, okay, I'll just try to summarize it, because sometimes it goes sideways when I summarize it. That way, and also I don't want to make the motion if someone else wants to, unless there's no one else that wants to. So, okay, sorry, it's a roundabout way of working, but it seems to work for us. Okay, so it's, yeah, we do everything different. We have to be special. Okay, so first, we're thanking the applicant for really bringing us a really wonderful project. And we appreciate the sensitivity to the historic resource and as well as adjoining historic resources. To study the historic color palette and with the suggestion of lighter and/or brighter colors, to look at breaking up especially the large wall plane with either changing of pattern, additional design of or additional windows and or doors, and to especially focus on the large expanse of wall, and to look at other examples of Italianate architecture and ways in which they break up the massing of the wall. All right, the landscape, so the open space study, switching the open space with the building location, as the majority of the commissioners felt that it is a better design to have the building to the back and the open space in between the structures. The porches, actually, let's continue with the landscape discussion. So for the landscape, to develop the landscape design without using artificial turf, and we'll just leave it at that. You've heard some of the other comments. Okay, so then, the porch designs. So continue to develop the porch designs, look at examples of Italianate porches, as well as look at widening the porches, widening and/or deepening the porches, and ideally to be able to fit some seating. And then to look at doing some articulation of the base of the building with, so that at least it relates more with the front building, and a suggestion of either a taller board as a base or some other base treatment. I think that is a good, I think that has all the comments. What, any other comments I missed?
Chair Grumpine?
Yep.
Could we, I'm learning
Yeah.
to be sure that.
We
think-
get all of it.
So can we, I'd really just like to, in the first statement, of appreciation for the project and the appropriateness of it, can we add, to just emphasize, I think, especially as HLC, the emphasis on the preservation and the restoration
yeah.
aspect of it?
Yeah.
Of
That's
the
a good point.
original. yeah.
And so, thank the applicant as well for the upkeep and treatment of, continued treatment of the historic resource on the, and
Yeah, working with it, keeping
with
it,
it,
and,
yeah.
yeah. And then the other, when we're talking about moving it to the back, I think it's important to also say that we appreciate the reason why you put the building in the middle to begin with was because you were trying to be sensitive to the Natural History Museum. So, can I?
It's a valid reason to put it in the motion.
Could I finish what I was going to say, and then you can object to it?
see, this is why we,
I think it's important to recognize that the applicant considered that,
sensitive
and they were
to-
trying to be sensitive to a historic landmark. And so, and then we directed them otherwise.
historic resource.
Resource.
Yeah.
And we directed them otherwise, and we also added to that we felt that even though we also are concerned about that we felt it was okay because it's not a real tall building, and that with the trees and everything else, it would work. I just, and
yeah.
if
I think-
anyone
I
wants
think
to object,
I think
that's fine.
appropriate, and I agree with that as well.
Okay.
If other, it sounds like Commissioner.
It's a parking lot
No,
back there.
no, what
You're trying to
Commissioner,
reserve a parking lot for the museum?
no, Commissioner
talking
Commissioner Ensberg's point is they're trying to be sensitive by not putting it next to, and by putting it far away from that. And
natural.
I think that's appropriate. I agree with that. You may not, but I agree that they were at least trying to do that. And what we're saying is, don't worry, that's not a big problem. A, it's a parking lot. B, it's not that big of a building. It's not looming over them. It's not infringing on the historic resource, but we understand them trying to be sensitive to it.
Yes, and we
that's-
appreciate.
We
and
appreciate that. 'cause
appreciate
we
that.
have plenty of projects that don't do that. so.
Okay, thank you. And then the other, I wanted to, if we could add about the colors, that we find that the two buildings being of different color is good.
Yes. Okay,
And-
let's add that as well.
And then finally, just on those elevations where the big blank, those are the east-west elevations, so maybe just
Yeah,
say
okay.
east-west
Yeah, so if we can
elevation.
add that, the big blank east-west elevations.
Okay. Those were just clarifications. Okay, great, thank you.
Oh, and actually, I'm noticing something. And ideally, on the front elevation, I see what the reason why you're, it's kind of odd because it's not symmetrical, but it's trying to be, I think. Or maybe it was, maybe they're being equal distance away.
Which
Look
ones?
at the floor plans.
Yeah.
Is that the window place?
So the staircase isn't right in the middle, but we can study window placements
Yeah, study
on
window
there.
placements on that and see if you can get it to be a little closer to a symmetrical on the front facade. And it might even be just getting the windows a little bit, the big windows closer to the center line, and that together, both of them, that might help throw off your, have a symmetrical arrangement on an asymmetrical
Or it
wall.
could be moving these windows further away and having it be
Yeah.
really not
Yeah,
symmetrical.
exactly. So study it.
Yeah.
Study
Right,
it. There
right,
seems
right,
like
right.
there's something there that might be a better solution. And you might find that solution in your Italian examples that you look at too, as you look around.
And the
Or
porches
bigger.
may change some things too.
Yeah,
if the
that's true.
porch
If the
becomes
porch gets
bigger.
bigger, yeah, exactly.
Is that
So-
that's the living room window there? That one on the lower
I think
level?
That is I think it's a bedroom.
Is it?
Yeah, these are bedrooms.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so, okay, so that front facade to study,
Just click to the left, and that should.
Jim Jordan's in trouble. All right.
That was the news.
That was a nightmare for a moment.
yeah, okay, so for the north elevation, the north and south elevations to study the arrangement of the windows and porch. We'll just leave it at that.
Aren't those the
All
east
right.
and west?
Those are east-west.
North-
The big blank walls on the,
No, but he was talking about the north and
yeah,
south.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, so study those arrangements to see if there's a more pleasing, a pleasing arrangement.
Mr. Chair?
Either more asymmetrical or less asymmetrical, or more symmetrical. Yeah.
Could we ask for just an array of tints of the colors you've picked, just from what you've already shown us, just up the value scale? In other words,
Okay, so-
We might pick something else.
when you come back, there's three different chips, so we,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, so we'll say
I
ask
see.
for
You want a
multiple range of color sample chips
Okay.
to look at
Thank you.
for next time. Or at least for final. But that's, yeah, bring them earlier is always better. Okay, any other comments that we want to add to that?
I'm glad I could drop in and make a motion for indefinite continuance with those comments.
See?
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion and a second under discussion. Any more?
There was one other thing that, I don't know if it's important to be in there, but I had mentioned about the trim, the sill.
Oh, yeah, that's a
the
good
sill
point. Yeah, and
being-
the sill color to be.
If you all
the same as
agree.
the- Yes, I think that's right.
Mr. Lenvick? Oh, never
And
mind.
even if he doesn't, it's historically accurate to make the sill the same as
Okay.
surrounding trim.
Did someone move? Did
Okay,
someone
so-
move yet?
And does a first and a second are okay?
Okay.
Yep. All right. Any other discussion? All right. Roll call vote, please.
Thank you. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Lenbeck,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner McClure,
Yes.
Commissioner Dordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
yes.
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
and Chair Grubite.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for a good project.
Good
All
thing
right.
you were right on time at 1:30.
So, and at less than 1:50, we are adjourned.